From supply chain nightmares to food and fuel shortages to pointless wars, massive refugee crises, the wheels are slowly coming off the globalization train. Now, the media hate to report on this, but one of the big stories playing out over the summer is the rise of the freedom movement. I'm talking about normal people around the world who are pushing back on the globalist agenda that's essentially dominated our politics since the 1990s. Now, too often we're told that it's Americans, they're the only ones who have concerns about globalization and what it means for our culture and our economy and our way of life. But around the world, working people are now pushing back against a system that is making a small sliver of the population very rich while harming the interests of the vast majority. So if I told you, for example, that farmers who are furious about high costs and regulations were marching against government climate fanatics, I don't know, you'd probably think it was happening somewhere in rural America, but as we reported last night, it's happening in the Netherlands.
The farmers want a stable future, a normal, stable future. They buy the farm and they are gone.
You told me earlier that they have no future and they were hanging themselves. Is that something that people are aware of? Is that a crisis right now?
Yes, this is a crisis, yes.
The attack on farming and agriculture is terrifying, and it's all according to the globalist playbook. And in France, voters rejected Emmanuel Macron's globalist agenda by giving more power to left-wing and right-wing parties. Macron's support for the war in Ukraine was cited repeatedly by both opposition candidates. They seized on record-level inflation to portray Macron as a leader who paid more attention to his role on the diplomatic stage than to voters struggling to make ends meet. And in Germany, where the globalist green agenda was once front and center for the world to see, they've essentially had to admit, well, the whole thing's a failure, putting the entire country into a self-inflicted energy crisis. So what are they doing now? They're moving back to, well, they're bringing back coal. And in Britain, Boris Johnson, he came to power because he was one of the few politicians who would implement Brexit. Globalists hated Brexit. He ended up getting distracted by globalist concerns as well. And he presented himself as someone who was going to focus on the working class people, but then he became enamored by China and the war in Ukraine.
Very, very important that we understand that China is a great country. It's going to be a gigantic factor of the world's economy for a long time to come.
And let me say now to the people of Ukraine that I know that we in the UK will continue to back your fight for freedom for as long as it takes.
The globalists routinely argue that anyone who questions the idea of open markets and open borders, that they're destabilizing the global system. But the truth is, it's globalization itself that is destabilizing and weakening great Western nations that have existed for centuries.